And as I mentioned, agenda for today's session would be to understand the structural elements that we will configure in SAP EWM. What I would do is I'll try to use the system mode and also use that Excel diagram to give you guys some more practical examples. Now, when we talk about the structural elements in terms of configuration, because it is a mixture, it's a mixture of configuration as well as master data. It is a bit similar to what you have in WM as well in terms of storage types, storage sections, and storage bins. So that fundamental architecture still remains the same. Okay. So at the header level is the storage type, and then you have the storage section, and you have the storage bin. Now, in terms of mandatory structural elements over here, the two mandatory things that are required to create a storage bin is the warehouse and the storage type. So the storage section is an optional variant which we can use if it is required, because there are certain very simple warehouses where so much of bifurcation is not required, very small warehouses. And if the organization decides to roll out EWM in those warehouses as well, then you might not need storage sections as well. So you can just simply have storage types for different kinds of products coming in. And then based on that, you can create the storage bins and do the storage of the products or materials. Now, what exactly is a storage type? So the storage type basically is a classification which is used to summarize a group of storage bins. Now, these can be physical bins, this can be logical bins as well. Okay, so I will quickly take you to the diagram which I have created. So now this particular diagram, if you guys can see and follow, can you see this Excel worksheet that I have created, guys? Now, this is basically showing an inbound scenario receipts from vendor, a very simple scenario. And over here, you see this different areas. So you can see over here 9010 and the storage bin. So what you see over here, which has been mentioned over here, GR zone 1 is a storage bin number. GR zone 2 is another storage bin number. This 9010 signifies your storage type. So this is, again, if you see over here on the right, you see A1 HR. So this is a storage type. So this is basically signifying high racks. So A1 is the row and HR stands for high racks. Then A2 HR is again row A2 high racks and A3 high racks. Okay. So this is how the storage types are generally grouped. It can be grouped based on product groups, and it depends on organization to organization. So what happens is that when we are implementing EWM or like from a warehouse management system perspective as well, we want to ensure that the movement of the goods are being monitored right from the moment it is being loaded or unloaded. And from there onwards, where exactly it is moving, where exactly at one point in time the goods or the materials are. So from a warehouse, office, and management and supervision perspective, so I need to make sure that the entire warehouse, let's say, for example, this is one part of the warehouse. So this entire warehouse, the different areas through which the goods will be moved from one location to the other. So the entire area will be mapped within storage bins. So because I can only capture and understand where exactly it is if I map my entire area as storage bins. Now, obviously, to create the storage bin, we need to classify it within different storage types. Now, say, for example, 9010, this is the storage type for goods receipt area, right? So whatever goods receipt storage bins that I would be creating within this particular storage type. So similarly, for the packing work center as well, I would be creating a storage type, and also I would be creating storage bins and assign it to the work center. And over here as well for this, the rows, so these are racks basically, let's assume these are racks. And over here as well, these would be the storage types, and within them, I'll be creating the storage bins. Now you see this area I have mentioned as a bulk storage type. So basically, within warehouses, you've got different kinds of storage that you can do. You can store the products in racks, you can store the products in bulk areas as well. Okay. So generally the heavier products, the product which comes in bigger packaging sizes, which cannot be loaded onto racks. So those kind of products would be stored in bulk areas. Okay. Also, there would be certain scenarios where cross-docking functionalities are involved. In those cases also, we would be setting up bulk storage types. Sometimes I've seen those examples as well, and I've worked on those kind of scenarios as well. But I'll be covering more on that when we are doing the cross-docking part, when we're covering that particular topic in our curriculum. But in general, if you see the bulk storage type, what it means is that it's basically an open storage. So for example, there are certain organizations, if you have seen open parkings, so the actual bulk storage bins look like that. So they look like parking areas, huge parking areas, and there'll be huge pallets being stacked on in those areas. Okay, I've seen warehouses in Europe who do their storage like that. A lot of warehouses. If you have got a chance to travel to Europe, towards Spain, towards France, you would see that there are a lot of distribution centers and warehouses who do their storage in a bulk manner as well. But it always depends on the kind of product, the packaging of the product, because when you store in bulk, sometimes it can be within a roof, it can be in an open area as well. So there are a lot of conditions which are required to analyze and then plan where exactly you want to store your materials in within the warehouse. So wherever you are storing your materials in within the warehouse, all those areas, as I mentioned, would be defined in the system as storage bins. The storage bins need to be defined within a storage type. Okay, so what this slide says is that examples of commonly used storage types are fixed bin areas, high rack areas, floor storage areas, bulk storage areas, pushback racks, special storage areas, example for hazardous materials. So basically, sometimes there are some special conditions required for specific products for which you need to store them separately. Not only hazardous materials, but also sometimes certain products require ambient conditions. Like if you go to any warehouse from the pharmaceutical industry, so you would see there would be certain drugs which need to be stored within specific temperature ranges. Okay, there would be certain drugs which need to be stored in the freezer area. There would be certain drugs which need to be stored between 5 degrees centigrades to 17 degree centigrades. So it depends. So those storage conditions would be maintained within the material master, which will flow into EWM as well in the product master, because EWM also has its own master when it comes to products as well. So we just simply don't use the material master, which is there in ECC. So we'll cover that in tomorrow's session when we are doing the master data. So there I will show you what are the fields which comes in automatically from ECC to EWM, and there are certain tabs. So all these conditions come in, and based on that, we'll be creating different storage types, and within them, different storage bins. Where people having a lot of years of experience in EWM and people having no experience in EWM. So certain people have only worked in MMSD modules like this. So if you have not got an opportunity to see a physical actual warehouse, so what I would recommend, if there is an IKEA outlet in your city, if say for example, I'm not so sure in which cities in India the IKEA outlets are there, but I believe in Bangalore, in Hyderabad, in Mumbai, IKEA outlets have opened. So if you get an opportunity to go to any IKEA outlet, because globally the IKEA outlet layouts are same. So when you are making the exit, then you will see their racking structure, how they are storing their products. Okay, and they do the storage exactly in a similar fashion. So you see the heavier products, the heavier furniture will always be in a bulk storage area where they cannot push it into the racks. So it will be in kind of an open stacking position. You know, they will keep it one carton over the other. And then the ones which they can push it into racks, they will push it. And on every rack, you would see there is an identifier. The storage bin number would be there. So there are storage sections also. If you go there, you will see. And I mean, if you visit any IKEA outlet, on the racks itself, it will be written. The section will be written, and the bin number will also be written. In fact, if you check out any product and you want to see where, because it's a self-picking thing, right? In IKEA, I'm not sure whether you guys have had an experience of shopping in IKEA. So if you're buying something, say for example a chair, nobody is going to come and give it to you in your hand, right? So you need to check the self pickup area. So you need to scan the so the material would be having a tag. So in the tag itself, the storage bin number, the section, everything will be mentioned. So you need to go and identify yourself with the racks. So now why I'm giving you an example of IKEA, it's because that is the best practical example. You don't need to have a project access to go inside a warehouse. You can just simply go there and see how the layout is there in terms of the racking structure, in terms of the bulk structure, how they are doing it. Let us quickly go into the system and see how we are defining the storage type. Again, you need to go into SPRO, that is generic. And then from here, you need to go into SAP Extended Warehouse Management, define storage types. When we go into define storage types, so this is the screen which opens up. Now I will again push in certain tables for you guys, which have not been mentioned in the course curriculum, but this is something additional that I'm sharing with you guys. It's up to you whether I'm just putting it in the chat box. Let us go inside. So you see this warehouse 00010010 high rack storage. So let's take this example. Okay, so just let's simply go in. Now let's see what are the different controls we have. So I would be going through the controls based on the topics that we would be covering. But in today's session as well, I would be covering a few of the controls. Because what happens is that when we are, say, for example, when we are covering the inbound or the goods receipt part, at that point in time, again, we need to come back to this particular configuration. Because this is something which we will be using extensively. Not only for inbound, we'll be using for outbound, we'll be using when we are using storage control in terms of POSC, LOSC, so we will be using it extensively. But I would be covering a few of the important things that you need to understand. But as you can see, the moment you go inside the storage type control, the controls have been classified into the different movements which would be performed within the warehouse. Okay, so you would see that over here you've got the generic controls which come under the general tab, and then you have got the put-away control, which is controlling how the inbound movements would behave once it comes into this particular storage type. Okay, or a bin, once it comes into a storage bin created within this particular storage type. Now, apart from that, you have the stock removal control or the outbound controls as well. And then you have the overall goods movement control. Okay, and then you have got controls for replenishment as well. So from a general control perspective, as I said, I will be going deep into these controls once we are covering each of these topics, because we need to come back. As I said, this is being used extensively. We need to keep coming back to this set of configuration. Now, as you can see, in the general control, you've got something called the storage type role and storage behavior. Okay, so we'll start off with the storage type role. So for storage type role, you see this is maintained as blank or initial. There's nothing maintained over here. So you can see that blank means standard storage type. That means there is no unique process which is linked to this particular storage type. Right? So if I am having a plain, say for example, for the racks that we were seeing in this diagram, so these racks I would define as standard storage type role. I will not assign any particular storage type role to this. But in case of the storage type which is associated with the goods receipt area, okay, this particular area. So let us see the role will change, right? So now if we go to 9010, and you see the storage type role now is maintained as D. Now remember guys, 0001 warehouse that you see is a standard warehouse which is being provided by SAP, and it comes along with the system. So you can take this as a reference warehouse as well. It's up to you when you guys are setting up your warehouse. Okay. Now you see over here the storage type role is maintained as D by default for 9010. Let us see what does D mean. So what does D mean? D means a staging area group. So later in some time we will see the definition or the configuration of the staging area group as well. And whenever you're creating a staging area group, the corresponding storage type. So basically the staging area group needs to, the storage type needs to be configured for the staging area group, and you have defined it as a, you have defined it within the storage type role itself. Okay. So 9010 storage type, if I'm assigning the storage type role E, that means it is a staging area group. Later on, you will see how the configuration is connected. Okay. Next comes your storage behavior. Now, similarly, sorry, my bad. I'll go back to storage type role. You see there are different now storage type roles over here. So there is one storage type role for work center, there's one storage type role for doors, there is one storage type role for identification point. In short term, it is called as ID points. So ID points are something which we will be discussing whenever when we are doing layout oriented storage control, and when we are discussing two-step picking process, as well as when we will be discussing EWM MFS. Okay, so but just remember that these are different kinds of storage type, which will be these roles will be assigned to the storage types based on the functionalities that will be performed within those storage types. Okay, as I said, the racks will be generic. It's a standard storage type. You don't have to assign anything. It can be blank and it is initial. But for the other ones, where you have got specific processes that you are going to perform, let's say for example the packing one. So what we will do, we will create a storage type for the work center. That means for this particular area, ZVEN, say for example. And over here, I would be creating a storage type for this work center, and then I will be mapping the storage type role for the work center. Okay, so it depends on the actual process that is being performed within that particular storage type. Okay, now coming to storage behavior. So storage behavior, again over here, you see what has been maintained. Let me just go back to hierarchs once. Okay, so for hierarchs as well over here, what has been maintained is initial or blank. Now, if I click on the F4 functionality, so what does initial mean is a standard warehouse. And then for one, we have got pallet storage. For two, we've got bulk storage. And for three, we've got flexible storage. Now, earlier, if anybody who has worked in the previous versions, the 9, 9.1, 9.3, or even if you've got an opportunity to work on the older versions, you will see that you always just had three storage behaviors: initial, blank, 1, and 2. This flexible storage behavior has come in as a part of the S4 HANA, if I'm not wrong, 1909 release. From then onwards, it has come in. Okay, so what happens is that let us try to understand what exactly it correlates. So basically, the storage behavior signifies what kind of a storage would be happening within that particular storage type. And it also correspondingly controls the put away strategies. So from a configuration perspective, I'll open one more session. We are not going to cover these things in detail today because we're going to cover it during the goods receipt process. But let me quickly show you that. So we are going to extended warehouse management, and from over here, we'll go to goods receipt process. Over here, strategies. That you've got storage behavior, configuration for pallets, storage behavior configuration for bulk storage behavior for flexible bit. Kindly know this is not related to the storage type behavior. Okay, so now what exactly does it mean is that you can define certain rules for this. Now for the bulk storage, say for example, what we can see over here in this diagram, I can define how many number of stacks I can do in terms of the pallets based on the packaging material as well. So when we are going to when we are going to cover EWM master data, there is something called as handling units that we will cover, and there is something called as handling unit type. So handling unit type is nothing but a kind of so handling units basically are a carton can be a handling unit. A truck container can also be a handling unit. A pallet can also be defined as a handling unit. A bottle can be defined as a handling unit. Okay, so these storage packaging materials. So you would also map it within handling unit types. Okay, so based on the handling unit type, so it's a permutation and combination based on the handling unit type, the handling unit type, and then the bulk storage indicator, which is again something which we map in the product master. I will show it to you later. So there are different combinations, and based on this, I can map how many kinds of, say, for example, cartons I can stack over here in this particular area. Then the maximum number of stacking in terms of height and the maximum number of rows as well. Okay, so I can define the capacity using the bulk storage behavior. Again, For pallet, how much deep inside the pallets will move in. When I'm using pallet storage behavior, basically what happens, so let us assume that these are racks, and in every rack, like these are the rows in the racks, and I'll not be obviously storing just one pallet, right? I'll be pushing in one pallet after the other. So it will be like a deep layer. Okay, so if we look at it vertically, let's say I am drawing it over here, it is going to be something like this. Okay, so say for example, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4. So we push in pallet number 1 first, 2 first, 3 first, and then 4 first. 4 after that, sorry. So what happens is that, so this again is something which we can strategize. And when we are covering the pallet storage behavior topic in the put-away strategies, you will understand how the bins are being subdivided as well. We have also another thing over here which you can see is HU requirement. Now, what does this signify is that whether your product needs to be always packed into a handling unit, or it can be, you can keep the materials in that particular storage bin without packing. Okay. So if the HU requirement is mandatory, so X means mandatory, Y is not allowed. And HU is allowed, initial means HU is allowed but not required. So that means you will be allowed to push in products with handling units, but it is not a mandatory fee. Even if it's not there, that's fine. The system will still allow you to do the put away in those particular storage types or do bin to bin movements as well. But wherever HU requirement is mentioned as mandatory, in those cases, it is necessary that you need to pack the material first into a handling unit, and then only you can push in the product to the particular storage bin within this particular storage type. Okay. Now there is something called as fixed bins in a warehouse. So the concept of fixed bins is not very complex. So what happens is that we will be dedicating certain bins for specific products. Okay. Say for example, let's assume. So therefore, in these different racks, you can see the areas that I have marked are different kinds of products. Okay. So if we look into A3HR, so this is, let us assume that this is a consumer electronics warehouse where we are storing air conditioners, televisions, and mobiles. Okay. So over here, what I can do is, since air conditioners, out of these 3 products, you can see, let's assume that we are storing all these 3 different kinds of products in a racking structure. And what we're going to do is that we are going to map certain bins. So let's say these are 4 bins, and I'm going to mark it as that these bins will only be applicable for the aircon products. Now, the logic behind that, if you ask me the business logic behind that, is since aircons are heavier, so I would be keeping it towards the lower section of the rack. Okay. And then I'll be keeping televisions, and these bins I'll be allocating for mobiles, these bins I'll be allocating for televisions. So if I want to push in television into the aircon bins, the system will not allow me. So I will be covering that topic again when I'll be doing the put away and the goods receipt part, where we'll be discussing the fixed bin concept in detail and the related master data as well as the configuration. Okay. But the configuration also comprises over here from a storage type perspective. So if you want to use a bin as a fixed bin, then you need to also make sure that the storage type, because the bin is, as I mentioned multiple times, it is created within the storage type, so the controls need to be started from here. Okay, so you see there are controls for fixed bin usage, and then based on that, I'll show you the permutation combination when we are doing fixed bins topic. But in general, at a high level, this is where you have to do the configuration as well. Okay, but there are certain master data as well which needs to be maintained. Now, apart from that, there are controls, as I mentioned, for put away as well. And over here, you are controlling a lot of things. Like say, for example, what would be the put away rules, which is very important. Now, what we mean by put away rules is when we are trying to place stock. Now, if you see over here, again, going back to this diagram, once let's assume that the materials are being unloaded into goods receipt zone. From here, If it is not a bulk product, it will be going to the packing work center. And over here, I'll be packing it into the packaging sizes which are required so that I can store the material into these racks. Sometimes in certain warehouses, these kind of scenarios will also be there because made to optimize the space. So what they would do, so you might ask that when the products are coming in, they must already be in a packaging, right? Yes, they might be in a packaging. But what happens is that you might have to consolidate them into a pallet. So over here in the work center, what you will do, you will consolidate, pack it into a bigger pallet, all those small cartons, and then push it into the racks. When we are doing these activities, when the forklift driver, so this is the forklift driver moving from the packing work center towards the rack. So when he arrives over here, so he would be now placing the materials based on what, right? So based on the controls which you put over here in Putaway rules. So the first thing that is observed over here is when you are placing a particular product or particular material, are you always going to put it into the forklift driver or the system? Is it always going to identify an empty bin, or already product is there in the bin and there is available space within the bin to push in more material? Is it going to add stock to an existing bin, right? So if you see over here, there are multiple put away rules. So two means addition to existing stock or empty bin. Okay. So first it will try to add stock to an existing bin if the capacity or the space is there. If it's not there, then it will push to the empty bin. Or it will try to combine or do the put away based on consolidation groups. So again, consolidation group is something that we'll be covering during the goods receipt process as well. This is widely being used both in inbound as well as outbound processes. There is a set of master data as well, configuration as well, which needs to be done from a consolidation group perspective. But at a high level, if you want to say, for example, combine, or you have created in the system consolidation group based on customers, say for example, so the system will try to push in when the material is coming in, it will keep push in the stock in the bins which are assigned to that particular consolidation group, and it will make sure that since I've created it for a particular customer, so that customer stock is ready in those particular bins. No, and it is not combined with any other customer. Okay. Then you have got the general storage area as well. Or if you want the system to every time find an empty bin, so you can do that setup as well, and you can push it as number 5. And then transit warehouse is something which is basically we use when we are using it we can use it from a cross-docking perspective as well, and we can use it from a staging area usage perspective as well. So if you see over here for this particular storage type for high rack storage, what has been configured is put away rules 5, which is empty bin. Now, apart from that, you've got controls for capacity check. You've got controls for warehouse task. How is it going to get generated? Now, the biggest question is, what is a warehouse task, right? Because when people, especially in WM, what you guys are aware of is transfer orders, right? So warehouse task is nothing but an instruction for the forklift driver or the material handler that from which particular storage bin, which particular product, which particular batch, how much quantity needs to be picked, and what is the destination storage bin, what would be the destination quantity, what would be if it's the full pallet, it will be is the destination issue going to be the same, is it going to be different? So all those things you need to confirm. So from a source location perspective, when a warehouse task is created, the information that is being provided to the forklift driver or the material handler is which location you need to go into, to pick up the stock, how much quantity, what is the batch. If it's a serialized product having serial numbers, say for example, then the serial numbers will also be mentioned. So all those details would be provided. Now from a inbound perspective, say for example, when the driver is trying to do the put away, okay, so the driver, the first activity which happens over here is the goods receipt. So once the goods receipt happens, let's take the same example. It goes to the packing work center. The packaging is being done over here, repacking, and then from here it goes for the final put away step. Now, what we can also configure is when the warehouse task is generated for the forklift driver. So whether the system is going to determine which particular storage bin it should go to, the exact storage bin, or the system is only going to tell you the storage type. That means it will only tell you that you go to A1 HR or you go to A2 HR and A3 HR, and the forklift driver, whichever empty bin is available, say for example, if the Putaway rule is selected as empty bin, he will go and scan the available empty bin and put away the product or the pallet over there. Or we can determine whether the system will be determining the storage type and also the storage section. Okay. So now what the question is, what exactly is a storage section? So the storage section is not always something where you're bifurcating the product based on fast, medium, and slow. It is not a mandatory thing that you need to define your sections based on that. You can also define your sections based on, if you see the row number A2, what I have done, I have again defined it. Again, I've taken a different industry, a pharmaceutical industry example, and I have defined the drugs over here based on the different categories of, I would say medicines. So gastro, which will be taking, these are all the gastrointestinal medicines, which I'll be keeping over here. So this would be a section. Then derma would be all the skin related medicines, which would be there. And then you've got cardio over here, which would be all your heart related, cholesterol, whatever, high blood pressure, all these related medicines will be over here. So you can define sections like this as well. Okay, so this can also be your storage section. Similarly, for electronic consumer industry, you can define it as mobiles, television, air cons. So now you can ask me that this is something which is also like division, like which we have in SD, right? So it's not exactly the same one-to-one ratio that generally, but it depends on the organization. Certain organizations will also have everything. They will have the sections based on product groupings. They will have also the section based on the fast, medium, slow as well. Okay, so it depends on the storage type. What are the kind of products you are storing in that storage type, and how you want to define those sections. Again, you must have noticed from a fast, medium, slow perspective, I have kept the fast products towards the bottom of the rack because it is easier to pick up the materials from the bottom of the rack, and it is less time consuming, even if you're using a forklift. So now coming back to storage type control, also what we can control over here, apart from the multiple, as I said, I'll be going into each and every detailed controls once we are covering these topics. Otherwise, it's going to be a repetition. Now, also one important thing that we can control is what kind of mixing I can do in terms of my storage, how I can mix the products. Okay, so there are two levels of mixing controls over here, which you can see: mixed storage in general, and then mixed storage in handling units. Okay, so if you go to mixed storage in general, the options over here are mixed storage without limitations. The next option is several non-mixed handling units with the same product and batch. Okay. So mixed storage without limitations that means you can store any product, any batch, any serial number in this particular bin, or sorry, any bin which is created within this particular storage type. Okay. Now, if you choose one, what it will allow is that the product and batch combination needs to be the same. Okay. Several HUs with different batches of the same product. This is only so even if the batches are different, but the product remains the same, then it will allow you to store, right? And then one HU allowed per bin. So if you choose 3, then only one handling unit is allowed per bin. So which is basically no mixing, right? So if that HU has got some mixing, that is fine, but it is only one handling unit which is allowed. Now, apart from that, you have also got controls on SLEDs, how you handle alternate unit of measurement when you are taking up the stock, when the stock is being shown in the EWM monitor as well. So all these things as well we can control. And from a stock removal perspective, There are other controls in terms of rounding of the units when you're creating your warehouse tasks as well. Now, what it means is that, um, say for example, there is a product which is having 10 cartons equal to one pallet, and the quantity that is supposed to be put away is 1.5 pallets. So based on the setup that I select over here, the system is going to split the warehouse task and round it to whole units. So it will be rounding it to the multiple of units that it can find nearest to. So there are multiple selections over here. So as you can see, so based on these selections, now again, this is something I will go into detail once we start doing the creating warehouse task in inbound and outbound. Okay, so this is from an outbound perspective, and this is the rounding of tasks that we can configure. Okay, so apart from that, also you've got goods movement control. So within the storage type, you can maintain the availability group. Now, the availability group, as if you guys remember, yesterday we had done one configuration where we had assigned the ECC plant and storage location to the EWM warehouse number and then the availability group. Now, what this availability group correspondingly is also assigned to is something called the stock type. So now stock type is something which is not used in ECC, but this stock type is linked with the storage location of ECC. Okay, so how it is being done, let us quickly go into it. Otherwise, you will not understand this availability group. So if you go into the configuration of goods receipt process and we go inside configure availability group for Putaway, so you will see over here the first node is the definition of availability group. It's earlier the restriction was that the availability group needs to be a 3-character, but now from a S4 HANA perspective, you can create exactly the same availability group as in your storage location in ECC. That means it can be 4 characters. Okay, so say for example over here. Okay, so you can see the system is allowing me. Earlier it was restricted to 4 characters for this particular field. Now it has been opened up to, earlier it was 3 characters, now it has been opened up to 4 characters. And we can exactly map the same nomenclature as in the ECC storage location. So I would recommend when you guys are practicing, it's better you do the mapping as exactly the same as your storage location. Apart from that, the next configuration over here is the definition of non-location independent stock type. So this is something which you need to define against your warehouse number. So if you see for the warehouse number which I have defined, ET01. So we've got this particular non-location specific stock type, which is block stock, unrestricted, quality inspection, and then block stock returns. Now, this is something whenever you are checking out stock in MMB transaction in ECC. So over there as well, you will see this, all the different bifurcations, customer returns, unrestricted, block stock like this, right? So over here in EWM, we have got this high level bifurcation first. So this needs to be mapped from to the warehouse first, this high level bifurcation. So this is called the non-location specific stock type definition. Okay. So if you want to create your own Z ones as well, it can be done if you want to create as well. Okay. But generally, these are generic, and all the different stock types which we configure, it can come within these generic non-location specific stock types only. Because whatever stock types now you're going to configure, it will be either block stock, it will be either unrestricted quality returns, or block stock returns. Now, say for example, you have a stock type which is for customer reservation and you want to block it. So you can define it and you can map it to this block stock, this one, BB. Okay. So once you define this, the next one is configuration of the stock type. So the configuration of the stock type node over here, if you see. So over here, you see this particular column, the second column, these are the stock types, B5, B6, F1, F2, Q3, Q4, S5, S6. And all of these are linked to two things. It is linked to the availability group, and then it is linked to the non stock type, or the BBFF, QQ, the ones which we have just seen before this, the configuration. We have assigned this BB, FF, QQ, and RR to our warehouse. And then I am defining stock types over here, assigning it to availability groups. Now, so what I will do is that this is being assigned over here to 001. So I can create, say, for example, a new stock type and assign it to the new availability group which I have created. So let's say, for example, like I use this. Okay, stock type Z1 is not defined. Okay, I think I need to define the stock type in SCM basis if I'm not wrong. Just
yes.
Yeah. So I think I'm right? So this needs to be defined in SCM basis stock type. Yeah. What we will do is we will check out this configuration because this is a part of the goods receipt process. But over here, before I configure it over here, what needs to be done is that there is a separate node where I need to define the stock type, and that comes under over here within SCM basis over here. So from here, I need to identify. I don't remember the node exactly, but I will check it out and I will cover it during we are doing it the goods receipt process. So over there, we define the stock type first, and then we come over here and do the configuration. So now, once you do the assignment, so I'll go back to the availability group part over here. So once we do this assignment over here to the availability group, so the configuration that we had done, let me quickly jump to that configuration node. So over here, if you see, this particular storage location, EWM1, and this particular plant is linked to the warehouse PT01, and then the availability group 001. Okay. So now this availability group in turn is linked to what? It is linked to this particular stock type, B1. Okay. Then it is linked to F1, then it is linked to Q3, and it is linked to S5. So what it means is that whenever stock is coming in and it is having any of these stock types, so either it is blocked in P5, blocked in Putaway, whether it is unrestricted in Putaway, stock in quality inspection, then scrap, it is mapped as a scrapping stock. So all these kind of stocks will be allowed whenever we go into that particular storage type map against the availability group. Now let us go back to the storage type configuration. So if I map, suppose availability group 001 over here, okay? So what the system will allow is only the stock types which are mapped over here, B5, F1, Q3, and what is this? Sorry, S5. So only these stock types would be allowed to be stored within a bin which is created within this storage type. If I put the availability group over here. But then again, this is not a mandatory field. If you keep it blank, what it means is that you can store any stock type of any availability group within this particular storage type. Now, what it means is that if you've got, suppose, uh, when we are covering the posting changes, I will be covering that topic. So when we are maintaining this availability group separately for separate storage types, suppose for this particular storage type A1HR, I am maintaining 001 availability group. And over here, I'm maintaining 002. Okay. So if I'm moving goods from here to here, and these availability groups in turn are linked to what? The ECC storage locations, right? So if you can see over here, this availability group is linked to the ECC storage location. So 001 is linked to EWM1 and 002 is linked to ROD. So what in turn it will do, it will create a S-log to S-log transfer document in ECC. If I'm moving the materials from this particular storage type to this particular storage type, and both of them are assigned to different availability groups, and in turn these availability groups are assigned to different storage locations, then whenever I'm doing a transfer in EWM from here to here, or if I'm doing a stock type to stock type transfer also, at that point in time, it's going to create a S-log to S-log transfer in ECC. Now, whether it is automatically created, how it is being created, all those things we will be covering in the posting change topic when we are covering the posting change documents topic. Now we'll go to the bin creation part as we were discussing. So let us quickly see the basic part first of creation of bins manually. So if you want to create one by one storage bins, so you can use the transaction LS01. So I mean, again, this is something which is known by most of the EWM people that we have in the call, but for people who are new to EWM, that's why I'm pushing in the decode. Now over here, so one thing, so I actually, I'm not aware about the WM architecture, how it works in terms of the checks. But in EWM, what happens is that once you create a storage bin, so if you see over here, suppose I create test -001 for this particular warehouse number. So this nomenclature, any storage bin with this nomenclature, even if the storage type is different, system will not allow me to create it. Okay. So that means for one bin nomenclature, there can be only one a bin with the same name in a warehouse. So let's say, for example, I'm trying to create JR zone and storage type I would use is 9010. So the system will tell me that this particular entry, oh, sorry. So it's saying that the storage type itself doesn't exist. Okay, no worries. I will use something different. And if I'm creating now this one, so the GR zone bin has been created. Although I did not select the right storage type for the GR zone, but I'm just trying to give you guys an example. Now, if I try to create again GR zone, so what the system is giving me a warning is that the storage bin GR zone already exists. So it will not let me create the storage bin again. Because even though, say for example, I want to create GR zone over here, GR zone over here, with the same naming convention, I cannot do it. So what I will do, I will just change it by saying GR zone 1, GR zone 2. I'm just giving you an example. This is manual storage bin creation. Okay, so we will go back. So you can see over here. So once we maintain the, so I'll just create it for my warehouse. Now over here, if I want to create the bin with just this information, the system will allow me to do it. As I said, storage section is not a mandatory field. But if I want to maintain the section, I can do that as well. Okay. So against this particular storage type, there is no storage section. That's why it's not coming up in the F4 head. So there's no storage section which has been created against this particular storage type, right? So if there is a storage section assigned within the storage type, I can use that as well. Say for example, now if I want to use this one, and then comes the bin access type. So bin access type we have not yet discussed. So this basically, what exactly is bin access type? If you want to control who are the resources who are allowed to go to a particular bin, you are basically restricting their access to the storage bins. There would be certain warehouses where they will be having storing very expensive materials. Okay, so in one of my projects for an automobile spare part manufacturer, so they were storing platinum grade materials, and that would be in a metal vault. So the access is not being provided to all the operators inside the warehouse. Only people with specific, who are above a particular grade will be having access to those bins. So this bin access type is something we will be discussing again in detail when we are discussing queue and resource management and the RF setup. But this is generally being used to control that part at a high level. Another thing that is being generally used is a storage bin type. So the storage bin type, basically over here, if you see, let's look into the options which have been already configured. YB01 is short bulk storage lane, YB02 is long bulk storage lane. So again, this is something which is extensively being used whenever we are using the bulk storage behavior. If you remember, when we were going through the storage type controls, in the generic control towards the right side, there is storage behavior where you've got standard or general, and then you've got pallet, you've got bulk, and you've got flexible, right? So for the bulk storage behavior, we'll be basically maintaining storage bin types as well. So these bin types you can define bin types based on capacity as well. Say for example, if we go back to this diagram in this bulk area over here, so let's assume that there is just one bin type. Okay, so B101, say for example. So from that perspective, what will happen is that you can maintain the permutation and combination when you're setting up the bulk storage structure. So this B101 may be, you can maintain it as like suppose bin type for storing pipes, bin types for bin type for storing charcoal. So like that, you can also do your mapping. Okay. So bin type is something which again needs to be configured first, and to have you can also control the capacity. So the capacity of a bin can also be controlled at the bin type level. You can also control it directly at the storage bin level also, being maintaining the maximum weight, maximum volume, and the total capacity. But you can also maintain it at the bin type level as well. When we'll look into it today, we'll go into that configuration, and that is where you can maintain as well. So you see over here, there's also the stacking bin level, depth level, and all these things are there. So this is again something which we use it for the different storage behaviors respective to especially pallet storage behavior. Okay. So as I mentioned again within the pallet storage behavior, I told you that we use the depth of the racking structure. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we'll push pallet after pallet inside one row. And so that can be what we will do. We'll be using bin sectioning in that. Okay, so when we are going to cover the pallets storage behavior topic during the goods receipt process, so that is when I will go deep into this as well. And then you can also, from a graphical layout perspective, so EWM does offer you a graphical layout option where you need to maintain this X, Y, and Z coordinates, and based on that, it shows you it looks a bit like the layout diagrams, the virtual layout diagrams, if you guys have seen. And but I have not, to be honest with you, I have not seen many projects using this extensively. There are two reasons. Now, say for example, if there are projects where they are using extensively the automated. I mean, it's an automated warehouse, and they have got third-party systems which are controlling those conveyor or racking conveyor systems. So they have got their own graphical layout over there. So the entire conveyor layout comes out in that. The entire racking structure comes out in that. So then there's no point in having again, mapping this or doing the geo mapping of all these XYZ coordinates of the storage bins, and then creating a graphical warehouse layout. Till now, in my experience, over all these years, I've only seen one organization using this, the EWM graphical warehouse layout, but otherwise, mostly they don't use it. So well, that is from my experience. You guys might see it in your projects. I'm not so sure about it, but yes, the system does give you this flexibility that you can maintain it over here. So when we are doing, so it is basically a bin verification field, which you can, and it is a unique identifier for the bins. So we'll cover that topic. So because there are multiple things, I'll show you once again. So apart from this verification, there's something for PSA as well, production supply areas as well. Then you've got physical inventory, bin sectioning. So I need to cover these things in the interest of time along with the topics. Certain companies are using it. I have seen that in my projects. They have been using it, and if not being maintained properly, it creates a lot of issues as well. So I will give you examples from that perspective. Okay, so for the bin upload part, you see the system already gives you this template over here. So what you just need to do, you need to just select over here, export spreadsheet. And then once you click over here, the system will ask you whether you want to download it in which format and what local, where you want to. Once you select over here this particular option, then the pop-up will open up for your local file folder where you want to store it, and then the format will be downloaded. So it will look something like this. So this is the format which I've just downloaded. So it has the warehouse number, storage bin, storage type. So just by filling up this information, we can actually do an upload. Okay. So you just need to push in the warehouse number, you need to push in the storage bin number that you want to upload, and then you need to push in the storage type, storage section. And then once you are done with that, you just select over here, once the file is ready. So make sure that when you're saving this file, you're saving it as a .csv file. Okay, so when you're saving this file, you make sure when you go to file, save as, and then you save it as a .csv file. Don't save it as a normal Excel file, so the system will not be able to read it. So that is by default a requirement for any uploads that you do in EWM, including stock uploads. Okay. So you convert it into a CSV comma delimited file, and then you upload it. You select the file. It comes up over here. Click on this upload button. Once you click on this upload button, the entire file will come over here. So the current blank screen that you see, instead of the blank screen, all the entries that you have uploaded will come over here. Yes. So one thing is that once that is being done, if you click on this create storage bins button, only then the system will go and create the storage bins. Otherwise, just on clicking on upload, it's not going to create the storage bins. Now, suppose there were 5 storage bins that you have uploaded. I'm just giving an example. And out of those 5 bins, the storage types that you have mentioned does not exist itself. You have not configured the storage type. The system will not load those bins. So system will do its check and it will come and fail changes over here in this tab. Or if everything is perfect, then it will come up in this particular tab with the successful changes. And over here at the bottom of the screen, you will see that these many number of bins have been successfully created. So one thing that we need to use extensively when we are working in a warehouse or whenever we are working on projects as well, this is something which is being extensively used actually by the users. And this is called the EWM monitor or the EWM warehouse cockpit view. I'll just go to that transaction. Once we go inside EWM monitor, so it comes up with warehouse number and then the monitor over here, you need to push in. So again, this is a different topic altogether, how to configure the monitor, how you see all these nodes. These are completely configurable. It is customizable as well. If you want to see different screens, all those things can be done. I will explain it to you when we are covering those topics, okay? But as of now, just try to understand this transaction. So once you enter the transaction /n/SCWM/MON, this pop-up screen will come up asking you for the warehouse number, and then you need to enter the monitor. So generally, in general, we will use SAP as a monitor. If we have developed some Z monitors, we can use those Z monitors as well. So this is a standard SAP monitor, and you can see outbound, inbound, physical inventory, documents, stock and bin, resource management, product master data, labor management, material flow system, and then you can also view your queues, the queues which are coming in, the queues which are going out, if they are stuck, iDocs, everything you can view from this single cockpit. Okay. Now this is something which is extensively being used by users, and this is something not only being used for display or reporting purpose. This is a tool which is also used for execution. So you can create warehouse tasks from here as well. You can trigger the warehouse task creation, then posting changes, HU deletions, all those things you can do. And there are multiple functionalities you can do. And as and when we are covering the warehouse monitor, you will be seeing what are the different activities that can be performed using the warehouse monitor. So it's a display, reporting, as well as execution tool extensively being used by the warehouse users. So there is a Fury application as well for this. For the EWM warehouse monitor, standard Fury application also exists. I will show it to you guys later, how it looks like. And it has got even the Fury application has got the same, almost the same view, okay, in terms of the nodes. And this is completely, again, configurable, customizable as well. So I can make Z nodes as well. Everything is customizable, and I can make configurations as well. Say for example, for certain users, I just want them to do physical inventory. Let's say for example, I will not give them access to these nodes, the ones on top and the ones below. Only the physical inventory node will be there. So those things can also be done just through simple configuration. Now, why I've come into this monitor is because we can also go into stock and bin, go inside storage bin, and then see the stock which is there within the storage bin, or we can just simply just go inside over here, double click. So in this server, I'm running it for the first time, so therefore it's taking a bit of time. So I'm running it without pushing in any filter values in terms of bins and all. So I have just created one bin, which is this one for this particular storage type. So it's showing me this particular bin. And as you can see, there are multiple things over here which I can control. If I click on, so this particular icon is called the more methods icon. So if you click over here, there are multiple actions in terms of display and execution as well. Now, if I want to block my bin for Putaway, if I want to block my storage bin for stock removal. So all those things I can control from here as well. So there is this RB that you see, that's the removal block, and this VB that you see, that's the put away block. So say for example, I want to block it for put away, so it will be blocked and this indicator will get activated. And similarly, I can do unblocking of the bins as well. Generally, when we are working as consultants, most of the time the easier way to go through bins is obviously through the tables. I've already pushed in the bin master table as well. So it is LAGP/SEW/LAGP. So you can see on your screen, there are so many number of bins which have already got created. And this is the same table from where the EWM monitor, which I was showing you earlier, is fetching its data from, okay, in terms of the bin details. So let me show you. So if you see over here, all the blocks, empty bin indicator, capacity remaining, all these things are already a part of this. Once you create a bin, the next important part is, so we create a bin within the storage type. Optional is a storage section. Now there's something called as optional is bin type as well. It is up to us whether we want to assign a bin type if you're using the bulk structure or not. But another thing that is important is the activity areas. What is this extra bifurcation that is happening? So basically, what we are doing, we are grouping bins as per different activities that would be performed. And this we are calling these as activity areas. And these activity areas in turn will be assigned in terms of the warehouse order creation rules as well. So again, this is a big topic, the warehouse order creation rule, how it is being controlled and all those things. But basically what I'm going to define in this system, that in a particular set number of bins, whether I'm going to perform put away, whether I'm going to do dispatch outbound activities, whether I'm going to do any internal movements. Now, all these different kinds of activities that can be performed, and it is not that a bin in a particular storage bin, only one kind of activity can be performed. You can perform multiple activities. You can perform all the activities. Obviously, wherever I'll be doing put away, I'll be also picking up from the same storage bin as well, right? So we'll be assigning multiple activities, and this in turn will also be used when we are creating the sorting of the bins. Because when the system is trying to search which particular bin the stock needs to be put away to, it is going to do that based on the sorting sequence that will be done based on the activity area. So we call that particular activity bin sorting. So the first step is to define the activities for the activity areas. Okay. So we'll be defining different kinds of activities that can be performed. So say for example, if you can see over here, so the activity that has been defined for this warehouse, one of these activities, cross-line stock put away. Again, this is something which we will cover during our goods receipt process. This is a different kind of put away. It's not a straight cut put away that the system will just go and search for an empty bin. It works in a crisscross manner, and I will show you how exactly it works. So then, apart from the description of the activity, you also have a process category over here, which is being mapped. So you can see there are these 8 process categories which have been defined: put away, stock removal, internal warehouse movement, physical inventory, posting change, and CLSP or cross-line stock put away. Okay, so for this particular activity, since it is CLSP itself, so that is the process category that has been assigned to it. And this process step that you would see over here, which is associated again to storage process for process-oriented storage control. Again, that is another completely different topic. So we will not go into too much of details over here. We'll just keep this right now to defining the activities. So after the activities are defined, now is defining of the activity areas. I'm not going to use all these special activity category indicators and all these things, but I'll just go through the generic configuration. These are some things which is used in very specific scenarios. And say for example, let us go inside. Over here, nothing is being maintained. But this is something which is very, very optional, and it is used for only specific scenarios. So I would suggest if you guys want to have any questions for this, you can ask it to me in tomorrow's session. I'm more than happy to answer those questions, but we'll not cover it during today's config note right now over here. So how do we define an activity area? What is the logic behind it? So most of the time, the activity areas would be corresponding to your storage types. So if you've got, suppose, actual physical, like say for example, in this particular diagram, we are seeing that we have mapped 3 storage types over here. A1 HR, A2 HR, and A3 HR. Then we have got 9010 also as a storage type, right? So what we can do is we can exactly map name the activity areas as per the storage types as well. So we'll have an activity area A1 HR equals to A1 HR, A2 HR equals to A2 HR, like that. Because these activity areas also, you would see, we will also need to assign the activity areas to the storage types. Once the activity areas are defined, we need to assign these activity areas to the storage types. Okay, so let's see for this warehouse. Okay, so over here you can see Y001, Y011, all these activity areas which have been defined for this warehouse. So you would see these are general activity area for storage type Y001, Y021. So the naming nomenclature is similar. In most of the projects that I have worked as well, this is generally the naming nomenclature which is being followed. But yes, I have also seen projects where the naming nomenclature is different. It is not related to the storage type because they use a lot of sequencing. Within one activity area, they'll be maintaining multiple storage types and assigning the sequence to it. So in that case, they will be naming it separate. It will not be the same activity area equals to the storage type. When you're creating a bin, you can also mention the aisle. So from here, suppose, as you can see, I have mapped over here, this is one aisle and this is two. So from this start of this aisle to the end of this aisle, so all the bins, that means, will be covered within that particular activity area. So I can do that mapping as well over here. So the system does allow me to do that. Bin section also, start and end, I can use it if I'm using pallet storage behavior. Consolidation group also I can use if I'm using consolidation groups. But what generally I have also seen is that companies who are not using so much of complex behaviors, they would be simply mapping the storage types into the activity area. Once this is done, we have created the storage bins. We have seen the definition of the activity areas, assignment of the storage types to the activity areas. Now what needs to be done is creation of the sorting, the bin sorting. So what exactly is bin sorting? So what happens is that now this is one storage type, A1 HR. Okay. So within A1 HR, I've got, so let's just take this fast section, storage section. So within this, suppose I've got fast 1, fast 2, fast 3, and fast 4. Now in terms of the put-away sorting sequence, so what I want the system is to, instead of going to, let's assume, I mean, for any XYZ reasons, it should not go as 1, 2, 3, 4 when the warehouse task is getting created. The system should first create a warehouse task for 3, then it should create for 1, then for 2, and then for 4. If you want to do this, yes, you can do it. So it is based on the sorting sequence that is being maintained for each and every bin. Okay. So how do we maintain the sort sequence? The sort sequence can be maintained through a transaction, standard transaction. So, or it can be uploaded as well. Okay. It can be, so you can create again a file and then you can upload the sort sequence as well. Or you can use the standard transaction where the system will pull in all the storage bins which have been created and then it will do this generic sorting. Okay. The difference between the use of the transaction and the generic sorting is the generic sorting will be doing it like this, ascending or descending. But if you want to do it as per like 3 and then 1 and then 4 and then 2, that kind of a sorting, then for that kind of sorting, you need to upload the file.